Greetings. Thank you for joining us today for EarthEcho's STEMExplore Virtual Career Connection featuring Felicia Horne, PhD student, Material Science and Distribution Engineer at Tuskegee University in Tuskegee, Alabama. My name is Casey. I'm a programs manager here at EarthEcho International, and we are so excited to have students from all over the globe joining us as we learn about exciting and sustainable careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. This live event is part of STEMExplore, EarthEcho's program that brings inspiration to life by telling the stories of dynamic female professionals in STEM careers during live virtual career connections. We want to thank our founding sponsor, United Technologies, for their tremendous support of women in STEM. Here at EarthEcho, we believe that youth have the power to change the planet. Visit www.earthecho.org to learn more about our programs. You can also access resources like STEMExplore's career profile videos, as well as tune in for upcoming live events, just like this one. Now, I would also like to recognize and thank all of our STEMExplore after-school partners that we have across the nation. Now, we do have 3 sites that are on live with us via video, all located near Charlotte, North Carolina, with our after-school partners at MECED. So let's get a hello from one of those sites at Harding. Hello, Harding. How are you this morning?
Hi.
Wonderful to see everyone out there. Now let's get a hello from West Charlotte. Hello, West Charlotte. Great to see everyone there this morning. And also we're going to get another hello from our friends at Garinger. Good morning, Garinger. Wonderful to see everyone out there. Now, we also do have interactive sites joining us in New York, Ohio, and Florida. We are so excited to have all of you joining us today. Now, just a note that everybody out there can tune in to STEMExplore Live today, of course, via our virtual live feeds, and they can also ask questions of our STEMExplore mentor. So feel free to enter in any questions from the chat space if you're in this live Zoom feed, or if you're tuning in on any of our live streams, such as that one on YouTube. Now, let's go ahead and get started. I would like to welcome our special guest for STEMExplore's virtual career connection today, Felicia Horne. Hello, Felicia.
Hi.
Wonderful to see you today. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Felicia holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from the Tuskegee University in Tuskegee, Alabama. She also holds a master's degree from Tuskegee University in mechanical engineering, where her research focused on self-healing materials. After completing her master's degree, Felicia decided to take an opportunity in South Florida to work for a utility company as a distribution engineer. After working for a couple of years in Florida, Felicia decided to return to Alabama for her doctoral degree, where she is now. Felicia is currently a first-year PhD student in material science and engineering at Tuskegee University. Her doctoral research is focused on multiferroic materials. Multiferroic are materials in which magnetism and ferroelectricity coexist. These materials are of applied interest because she allows various types of different magnetic and electric device structures. Felicia understands the importance of minorities and women in STEM, and she enjoys volunteering and giving back, especially to programs that support STEM initiatives, just like this one. So again, welcome, Felicia. We're so excited to have you this morning. Why don't we get started by telling us what you're currently doing right now?
Sure. Again, hi, everyone. So glad for you all to join and listen to my journey. So yes, right now I'm actually, like she said, like Casey said, a full-time student, full-time PhD student here in Tuskegee, at Tuskegee University in Tuskegee, Alabama. And the field that I'm actually getting my PhD in is called Material Science and Engineering. And basically material science and engineering is it's a bunch of students with different backgrounds. Some students that don't even have an engineering, undergraduate or master's degree, things like chemistry, engineering, biology, math. A lot of those students are in my program, and we all actually make up this department. Now, material science and engineering, which is MSc, is short for MSc. We also, do a lot of physics and chemistry principles, and we solve real world problems. And those problems are actually associated with different things like nanotechnology, information technology, manufacturing, and even energy and other engineering disciplines.
Excellent. And you put up this great map with all of these images around it, Felicia. Do you want to talk a little bit more about Tuskegee University in particular?
Sure, I would love to. So again, I am a 2-time Tuskegee grad working on my 3rd degree at Tuskegee. So obviously I have a lot of pride and, a lot of love for the university. Tuskegee University was actually founded in 1881 by Booker T. Washington. Tuskegee is actually, known for a lot of great things. It's a top HBCU in the South. And you have a lot of great influential people from Black history that actually, you hear the name Tuskegee and you think about them, like, again, Booker T. Washington and also George Washington Carver, who, had come up with so many different inventions with the peanut, over 300 inventions for the peanut, George Washington Carver. So that's just a nice little, history fact about George Washington Carver.
That's wonderful. Now, can you tell us a little bit what your current research focuses on?
Sure. So again, like I said, I'm working with multi-ferroic materials. And basically these materials exhibit different magnetic orders and electric orders. So I'm looking for these materials to basically have these different properties, and that's the makeup of multi-ferroic materials. If you're looking at the picture from the slide on the right, those are some of my powders. And then I infuse these powders in different thin films. And then these thin films are actually like plastic. And on the image on the left, you see the little peaks, and it's iron. So I was actually able to test my samples, my films, and show that their iron are actually in them. So this is just a little bit of something that I'm working with right now, and just to give you all a brief idea of, some of the day-to-day things that I'm currently working with.
Excellent. And what those multiferroics, when we did your introduction, we talked about kind of what those are. Can you explain those a little bit more and maybe some potential applications for those?
Yep, I sure can. So again, like I said, I'm currently working with those multiferroic materials, and like here in the picture, I actually did thin films, and I was able to create these materials via 3D printer. A Hyro 3D printer. The printer is there to the right. 3D printers are, you can make so many different things with 3D printers, and I'm actually just doing thin films. Now, some applications for thin films are sensors, magnetic field sensors. The list goes on and on. One of the big ones is, I know we all use computers, and one of the biggest things for computers now is getting as much memory as possible. So these thin films and multiferroic materials, one of the biggest applications is getting, tons of memory for different devices, and especially those computer devices.
Excellent. Now, you did also mention that you were working in Broward County, Florida. So can you tell us a little bit more about some of the work that you did there?
Yes. So I actually had the opportunity to come down to South Florida for a couple of years to work as a distribution engineer. And what a distribution engineer does is basically, we are the engineers that basically assist in distributing power to the consumer. The consumer would be, a residential home, commercial home, schools, all that you can think of. And as a distribution engineer, I was actually hired through my school's career fair. We have a career fair every year, and different companies come out. As a distribution engineer, I get to do on-the-job training. So I was kind of trained for the position that I did. And it was a lot of project management in commercial and residential projects.
Excellent. And also in Broward County, this is a look at where you were located in Florida. So I know you mentioned the career fairs that you did, but did you also work with things like storm cleanup?
I definitely did. So one of our number one priorities, like when you have different storms, especially hurricanes being in, Florida, we are considered first responders. So I facilitated in Irma. I'm pretty sure a lot of you all remember Hurricane Irma a couple of years back. I was a part of a storm restoration team. So I gathered packets and things like that and sent them out to the crews, basically letting them know which lines, which homes and things like that to go work on. So we played a huge role in getting our customers back up, after the storm. So yeah, that's one of our number one goals.
Excellent. All right. Well, that is such kind of a great starting point and background for what it is that you're doing currently, but what you've done in the past. So now I think it's time, it's a great opportunity to take any questions from our sites tuning in today. So I do want to remind, before I go to our live interactive sites, I do want to remind everybody that is tuning into the live streams that you can go ahead and chat in questions for Felicia. So go ahead and do that now. But why don't we start with our live interactive video sites with our partners at MECED. Let's first start with our friends at Harding. Harding, what questions do you have for Felicia this morning?
Good questions about her career.
I think right now we have questions. Okay, go ahead.
Women underrepresented in her career field.
Might have talked louder.
Are women underrepresented in your career field?
I'm sorry.
That is a great question. Are women underrepresented in your career field?
Absolutely, yes, they are. They are, yes. Yeah, that's a big thing for sure. When I worked there, it wasn't a lot of people that look like me. It wasn't a lot of women in general. So I did work with a lot of guys. I did.
And so when you were in Broward County specifically, Felicia, how many women would you say were on your team?
There were probably 4 out of 12.
Okay, so 4 out of 12. And now in your studies, getting your doctoral degree at Tuskegee, how many women are in your program?
There are actually more women in my program.
In the program?
Mm-hmm. But when I did my mechanical engineering degree, there weren't a lot of females in my classes. So the ratio probably was about, I don't know, 2 women to 10 guys maybe. With my degree, yeah, but material science, it's actually a little bit more women than guys. It's more of us in this program than what you usually see.
Okay, so maybe things are changing a little bit.
Yeah.
That would be great. Harding, do you have another question?
Yes, we have one more question.
Perfect.
Women in STEM, are you guys' words undervalued or not taken as seriously as the men in STEM?
Oh, so was your question, are the women in STEM kind of seen, are they undervalued compared to the men in the STEM careers?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
It is a great question. Thanks for asking that. In my experience, I would like to think so, yes. I had a lot of experience like that in the industry where I felt like I was undervalued and just working in general. I was hired as an engineer, so I would like to do, those engineering things, qualities that I was hired for, those qualifications. So absolutely. Yes, we are. And that's unfortunate, but I think, the more we speak out, the more we get our word out there. I think, things are coming around, but it just takes time. But yes, absolutely.
Great question. And Harding, we'll come back for more questions as well, unless you do have one more right now.
Yes, we actually have 2 more,
Oh,
and we're gonna take up a spot for West Charlotte because I think their mic is broken.
Okay,
so
wonderful.
Hopefully we can ask 2 more questions in light of them.
Okay.
That works.
So wait, do you want to follow up with this? Okay, go ahead. Do y'all believe the term that y'all have to act like a man in order to achieve the amount of success you have in your career?
And my question is, what about the representation of POC in general, like people of color in general?
Okay, so we'll go with that question. I didn't quite hear the first one. So do you want to, Felicia, speak to a little bit more of people of color and kind of what that looks like in the STEM field or what your experiences have been?
Sure. So actually, South Florida is very diverse. So I was fortunate enough when I got to South Florida. I was shocked, but there were a lot of people of color that I came encounter with that I actually worked with. So I worked with actually more people of color than I did with other people. But yes, people of color in that industry in South Florida particularly, they had a strong presence.
Excellent. And can we ask that first question again? I think it was a follow-up to the other question you had.
She was saying, do you feel like you have to act like a man in order to feel successful?
Nice
Or be
question.
looked at?
That is a good question.
So, no, actually I don't. I don't feel like I have to act like a man. I'm one that I pride myself on being me, you know, and just getting that across to individuals. Not necessarily trying to act like a man. I feel like I can very much so get my point across, just being 100% authentically myself. And a lot of times, if that's not reciprocated, or you know, if someone doesn't get that from me as a female, that's I don't mean this to be harsh, but that's an issue that they have, if you know what I mean. And they just have some work to do. But no, I don't feel like I have to, you know, act like a man or be so tough. I can be authentically myself, and I think that's important.
I agree, Felicia. Very well said. And I think one piece of advice I think that everybody can kind of work on is you can't control what's happening outside of you. You control what's happening inside of you and how you react to certain interactions. And yeah, I think you put it very well put. It's an issue that they have and that they have to work through themselves. Excellent questions. Awesome. Well, we'll come back. Let's head over to our other site with MECED at Geringer. I think I'm saying that correctly. Do we have you, Geringer? All right, and if you are there, you can go ahead and chat in questions. We also have some sites joining us from Ohio and New York and Florida. You can type in your questions at any time as well. Now, and we can see that chat space as well too. So why don't we move forward? Because Felicia, I have a feeling we might have a lot of other questions for you. So why don't we kind of move forward with your journey and your story and kind of where you came from and how you became inspired to become an engineer.
Sure. Okay. So again, there's a little picture of me. I was born in Florida, North Florida, actually, to two wonderful parents. My mom was actually from Florida. My dad's from Alabama. So that's how I ended up in Alabama. Actually, I come from a small town born in Tallahassee, but a small town in Florida called Monticello. That's where my mom's family is from. I have two siblings. Well, I have two brothers and one sister. And just coming up throughout school, I did a couple of after school programs. Let's see. Yeah, I did a couple of after school programs. The YMCA when I was in grade school was a big deal for me. We used to go there after school. And I actually, one of the things that encouraged me to become a part of STEM, which I hadn't had a lot of contact with, you know, people that were engineers or people that, you know, were just in that STEM field in general. Of course, I had teachers, but I just wasn't familiar with opportunities in STEM and individuals that worked in STEM. I did a program when I was in high school called Step Up in STEM. It was at a local community college, and we were there for about 4 weeks in the summer. And I got introduced to the field, and you know, there were teachers that, you know, talked to us about the different opportunities in STEM. We were able to do different field trips to different colleges that represented, you know, STEM and had programs within STEM for college and things like that. So yeah. I was able to play sports when I was in school. I actually played collegiate softball. I think it's very important to be a part of extracurricular activities and clubs and activities and things like that. I think sports show you teamwork, they build character. I did ROTC in school. I think I got a lot of, you know, discipline from that as well. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of, some of my background information on how I came to be, where I am now in a sense, from grade school on up.
Perfect. And so ROTC, of course, that I think that's kind of obvious of how that can help you, get some discipline and try and work with a rigorous schedule as well. But I also love that you mentioned that you were involved in sports, because I think sports also help all of us to learn how to work into teams. And even if you are doing something, you mentioned that summer program that you have, that you attended, like I'm sure that helped with you learning how to work in teams as well.
Sure, it definitely did. Mhm.
Excellent. And so how did you, so that's kind of taking you up through high school. So then was there something that inspired you to go into engineering, say in college?
Yep. I had a good friend. So first of all, back in grade school, especially high school, I was always good in math and science. Like I love math, adored math. Math and science was, a big deal for me in school. And actually, when I went to college, I was undecided on what I wanted to major in. So I had a good friend that, she had already had her mind up about engineering and things like that. I was familiar with engineering, because of the programs that I had done, but I still wasn't 100% sure. So it was between engineering, mechanical engineering, and business. And I actually pretty quickly chose engineering because I felt that you can get a business degree, not a problem, but I could always, take side classes and do my own, research on the side when it comes down to business, as opposed to getting that solid engineering degree. So that was just my personal journey and what I chose to do. But I had a good friend that inspired me to actually go ahead and dive into that engineering route. And I'm forever grateful and thankful for her that she did.
That's awesome. So let's talk about some realities of this career pathway of engineering in general. And it's nice because you have such a varied story where you've had your taste of engineering in a couple of different facets. So Can we talk a little bit about some of those realities? For example, what does it take to go through schooling, and what can somebody expect to make as far as a salary?
Sure. So the first thing, what does it take to go through that schooling? So as far as engineering goes, and if you are planning to go into, STEM engineering, especially engineering, the number one thing as far as getting a career in engineering or job in engineering, you have to have an accredited, you have to have a BS degree from an accredited university. That's first and foremost. Another important thing is to have internships. And like I spoke on those clubs and activities and things like that, that definitely looks good to companies. So as a distribution engineer, like I said, I worked as a distribution engineer. The salary range for a distribution engineer, it varies based on your location and what experience you have, and things, and your education. If you have just a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, but on average, the salary for a distribution engineer is around $63,000.
Excellent. And then if we speak a little bit more to the material science, can you talk a little bit more about that?
I can. So material science, so that as you see, material science, the average salary for a material scientist or a materials engineer with maybe a bachelor's is around $70,000, $74,000, again, depending on the location, the experience you have, mainly experience with research. So again, those internships and things like that. And again, I'm getting a doctorate in material science engineering, and with that, you can go different routes. You can go to academia, and you can become a professor or a teacher. But if you choose to go to industry, the salary is about $100,000. So you'll be hitting a six-figure mark if you choose to do so at that level.
That's excellent. And I think something that's important to mention as well. So you had talked about that most engineering positions, you have to have a bachelor's. You have to have a bachelor's in science. So even though a lot of these salaries look really great and really hefty, it's all relative. So it depends on kind of where you live, where you put your stake in the ground, but also the way that you live, and living within your means, of course, helps to help you have a good salary and possibly make some good choices about that. But then to even back up a little bit more is if you decide to go into advanced schooling, such as yourself, how much that schooling actually costs. And I know for students out there, we definitely want to encourage everyone to look for scholarships or fellowships, something that can help you to get your schooling paid for. So that's always helpful. And there's a lot of places out there. We've had conversations with a lot of STEMExplore mentors of there are places out there that have funding for students. And it's just the matter of you seeking those out and looking to see where you might fit in. And I know another conversation we've had throughout this season of STEMExplore is kind of looking at biological sciences versus engineering. And an internship is basically a volunteer position or a career. It's a way for you to get your taste into a career. And I say volunteer position because a lot of times in the biological sciences, those internships don't pay. But with engineering, did the internships you had, did those pay?
Yes, they did. So
they
that's
did.
Yeah. Yep, that's definitely true. Those engineering internships and co-ops definitely did pay. So it was, a little something to help put aside, to help when you came back to school in the spring or the fall or the summer, whenever you're doing school. So that's what I did. I took advantage of internships and, to save some money for school or my expenses during school. Another thing that I forgot to mention with working on, actually Casey mentioned it, there are a lot of scholarships, especially in the STEM field, and opportunities and grants actually out there for people of color to actually, have their schooling paid for. I'm actually fortunate enough to have my doctorate degree being paid for, and I also receive a stipend to help pay with my living cost and expenses. So it's tight, but it's manageable. I don't, taking out loans and things like that. I know sometimes that is a necessary, but there are definitely tons of programs and tons of opportunities and grants and things out there in the STEM field. And one of those grants, the National Science Foundation in itself supports a lot of students at my school, STEM students, that is, engineering specifically, with grants and things like that to help further your education.
Excellent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And you had included this slide, which I thought was so interesting. Do you want to add on anything to this slide that we're showing right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, I spoke on location and things like that. I think location is a big deal. And like Casey mentioned as well, is, just living in your means. I mean, you may get a salary, but you also have to consider, your benefits and, other expenses that you may have when it comes down to a salary and wages that you may get from, a job or a career that you go into. So location is definitely a big thing. I can say that, I've lived in Florida, I've lived in Alabama. The cost of living in Alabama is a whole lot cheaper than it is in South Florida. So it just depends. So yeah, as a material science, you can make anywhere from, 60,000 to over 100,000, but again, it depends on, it's relative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a good lesson to learn. I wish somebody would have told me that when I was going through my undergrad and my master's degree, just kind of living within your means and trying to get rid of debt before, you incur more of it and before you even get your actual paycheck. So those are really good lessons to kind of learn. So Felicia, here at EarthEcho, we believe that we can act now for a sustainable future. So can you talk a little bit about how your career in particular contributes to a sustainable future?
Sure. So I can speak a little on, I'll talk about now. So working as a material science and engineer in school, I think that's probably one of the top priorities that material scientists work through. I'm actually in a society, it's called a Materials Research Society. And one of their top missions is their mission is to promote communication and advancement of interdisciplinary material research to improve the quality of life. So the end of that, to improve the quality of life. Like, I think a lot of scientists take pride in trying to actually improve the quality of life with sustainability and things like that. So as a material science, we use different types of materials, biodegradable materials. Some examples even some students in my lab, they work with eggshells, chicken feathers and things like that, biodegrade, and they extract those things and they make carbon. So it's very interesting to see what we can come up with and what we can reuse when it comes down to different materials that don't hurt our earth and things like that. And when we're using these different types of plastic and things like that, like they just end up in landfills. So working as a material scientist, we can actually, we find pride in what we do. And we're also, it's like we're saving the world. Now, as a distribution engineer working in the utility fields and things like that, you have things like renewable energies and, solar power, solar panels, and things like that. So there are always different ways within, energy and utility in the utility world that they're always coming up with new ways to, advance, the energies and make our world more sustainable.
Awesome. That's excellent. So before we go to our last round of questions, so this is a little call out to anybody out there tuning in to chat in those questions. Before we head to that last round of questions, Felicia, what kind of words of advice, what words of wisdom would you give to students out there today?
Yes, I have a list actually. I came across some of these points. I added a few on my own, but I think they are very, very great takeaways from all of these. So the first one is if you're considering going into the STEM field, I think now it's time for you all to focus on your math and writing skills. I think as an engineer, like I told you, I was good in math and science, but I wasn't the greatest in my writing skills, right? So I think English and those writing classes are very important, or just as important. And one thing to mention with math, math it's getting harder. Some of those classes that you all take now in school, like, and that was over 10 years ago. And it's harder. So it gradually gets harder. It's gradually getting harder. So I think it's very important for you all to focus on math and your writing skills. And with those writing skills, it helps. It helps you with college essays, resumes, and drafting different things. And even if you do become a scientist or engineer, even with writing lab reports. So I think that's the, first bullet, I guess, when it comes down to trying to or wanting to become a part of the STEM family. Another point of advice is just learn to explore the world, learn a skill outside of your everyday schooling, learn the world around you. And I say that because if you want to become a doctor or something like that, learn about anatomy. If you want to become an engineer, you don't know what type of engineer, learn how to work with some type of tools or something like that. So, just get out there and get involved and, do something again outside of, okay, I just went to school today, but, expand your mind. The third one I would say is volunteer. I spoke on extracurricular activities. I think volunteering is a really big deal. I think that those different experiences when it comes down to volunteering will help you all with, your career path. It'll motivate you to succeed, not only maybe in college, if that's what you choose to do, but in life in general. It'll give you different types of motivation and, those life skills and different lessons. And you may, maybe hear different people's stories and things like that, and just give you different types of motivation. Another point, as you consider different careers and different career paths that you may want to take, a few other takeaways that you may want to ask yourself. What would you actually enjoy doing? Like, don't always think about the money and things like that. Like, figure out and find something that, if the money wasn't there, would you still want to do it? I think that's very important. And how can you make a difference in the world? We spoke on volunteering and, learning about the world, but how can I, make a difference in what I'm doing? And you actually can do that. A job isn't just, to get a paycheck, or it can be, but, think about it a little bit deeper and figure out, how am I impacting someone's life or the world in different types of ways. So, and then does your skill set or interest match the job that you actually want to do? So I think if you can figure that out at an early age, you know, before you get to college, like I think you'll be set moving forward. And your path, you know, your pathway can be, you know, laid out in a way that, you know, you won't have as many hardships later on if you figure it out sooner. Another big one is find a mentor. You know, you can have different mentors for different things. You know, find somebody in the career path that you may want to go. You know, you can have mentors for a career, you can have mentors for life, you can have mentors for whatever, but I think having a mentor is very, very important. And just your life progression in general. So you can always lean on the individual. They, you know, they can write, I don't know, references and different things like that for you. So I think a mentor is very, very important. And the last one is don't limit yourself. You can do whatever it is that you put your mind to. Literally whatever it is, the sky is the limit. So if you think it, if you believe it, if you dream it, you can do it. So don't limit yourself. And that's the last one.
That's awesome. All really, really great words of wisdom and advice for any students out there. Really great. Thank you so much, Felicia. All right, everyone. So now it's time for our last round of questions. So we are going to head to our interactive video sites, but we also do have questions coming in from the chat space as well. But first and foremost, why don't we head to our friends at Harding and see what questions they might have for you, Felicia. So Harding, do we have some additional questions?
How do y'all make board out of bird feathers?
So I actually said carbon, not cardboard. I said carbon. So like the black carbon, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but what they basically do, it's not my project, it's one of my colleagues, but I just wanted to give you all some examples of, you know, some different things that we use materials that we extract and get other things from it. But with the carbon, I think they melt it down in a furnace, and then they use this it's like it extracts the carbon. So they have to burn it first to a very, very high temperature. And then it breaks down the feathers. And then once you get the particles from the feathers, they mash it up. So it's like nanoparticles. So that's just an example of, you know, the feathers to carbon, not actually cardboard, but carbon.
That's amazing. That's really cool. All right, Harding, do you have another question?
How can we get a hold of those opportunities that you mentioned in the STEM program?
Great question. So how can they find those opportunities that you might have mentioned?
Yeah, so some of those, again, so it goes back to having a mentor. Some of your mentors may be, you know, privy to some different information. The internet is like the #1 tool to find opportunities. Different schools, like my school, has those opportunities listed on their website. And if you're applying for colleges and things like that, one thing is the colleges have like the faculty and staff listed. So sometimes you can just directly reach out to somebody within a department and, you know, inquire about the different scholarships and grants and things like the opportunities that they may have to, you know, support or fund some research if you choose to do so, or whatever program you decide to go in. So #1 is the internet. And then if you do know a school that you may want to attend, I say, you know, find the actual body at that school and reach directly out to them in that department, wherever you may want to go.
Yeah, that's really good advice, Felicia. And one thing that we've also talked about throughout the fall is networking and the importance of not being afraid to kind of put yourself out there. So even if you go on the internet and say you find somebody that's maybe the head of a department at a school that you want to attend, don't be scared to email them. Don't be scared to reach out, even pick up the phone and call them, because you never know when you put yourself out there, you never know what kind of response you would get. So it's really interesting of opportunities that can open by just networking and just reaching out to folks, even if you don't know them, or if you just met somebody and you remember them mentioning something, reaching out to them. That's great. All right, Harding, do you have another question for Felicia?
I think that's it from us, but I know the other groups have been typing their questions in the chat
Perfect.
box. I'm not sure if you're able to see those
Yep,
questions.
I've got those. So we will ask those right now. So Felicia, we do have a question coming in from another one of our Mech Ed sites. And that first question is, what made you decide to get into mechanical engineering?
Yeah, so again, like I said, one of my friends, I knew I wanted to do engineering, didn't know what engineering. I think mechanical engineering is more broad. It's not as specific or specialized. So I knew that I could do a lot of different things with mechanical engineering. I could have gone into manufacturing, engineering, processing, all those things. And some that I didn't list fall under mechanical engineering. So I felt like if I did mechanical engineering, I would have a little bit more flexibility when it came down to, going into a career. And yeah.
Excellent. And another question we have from our chat is there a crossover into the medical field?
Oh, great question. So there is, again, don't limit yourself. You can do whatever you want to do, right? As you come up, like I actually have a friend, she's in my program now. She's getting her PhD. I guess she loves school in material science and engineering. And then her plan is to actually go to med school afterwards. So I don't know if they're, if you can take any time off or anything like that, probably not in the medical field. But yeah, I know people that actually go from engineering to med school, or even, engineers. I have another mentor. She started off in engineering and now she's in nursing. So yeah, you can do different things. It just, whatever it is that you choose to do or want to do. Yeah, those opportunities are definitely out there. And then another guy, actually, for another example, I think he's going to go to dental school. So some of the research that he's worked on, getting his PhD in material science, I think maybe making teeth or something similar to that, he can apply that once he goes to dental school. So yeah, absolutely.
I think that one, dental especially, I feel like you can apply, that one's really easy to think about how you can apply material science. We, in fact, this year with STEMExplore, we did feature a nurse, and she finds a need. She says that nurses are engineers because they're constantly having to rig up things for patients that don't exist. Yeah. And so there was a group of engineers actually from MIT that came up with the idea of putting makerspaces in hospitals. And that particular group is called Makers Health. So whoever asked that question about the crossover with the medical field, I encourage you to Google Makers Health. And in fact, we were just in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where we have some STEMExplore after school partners, as well as a mentor there. And they just opened a brand new makerspace physically in the hospital. And they even have engineers on staff. So doctors and nurses can come into that space and say, hey, this is my issue. This is who the patient is. Can you help me figure out how to solve this? And it's really cool because they have like 3 or 4 different kinds of 3D printers. They have laser cutters in there. It's a really interesting field. And I really think that's up and coming to kind of bridge medicine and engineering.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was really cool. All right. So another question that we have is, what are some of the current projects that you're working on right now with your PhD degree?
Yeah, so I actually just left a conference last week, and it was an MRS conference in Boston. Got to do a lot of different workshops and things like that, but I presented some of my research on those multi-fluoroid materials. So again, those thin films that I created via 3D printer, that's my main project, and that's going to be what my thesis is going to be on. So again, multi-fluoroid materials, that's what I'm working on right now.
Awesome. Well, great questions, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Felicia, I can't thank you enough for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure speaking to all of you all. Great questions, like Casey said, and good luck moving forward, guys. Your future is bright, so just keep at whatever it is you're doing, and I'm sure there's always room for improvement to be a better you, and just do that.
Absolutely. That's great. And for those of you who have tuned in today, you can stay in touch with Felicia. She was so kind as to provide some of her social media handles, but as well as her email address. So remember what we talked about reaching out and networking. Don't be afraid to reach out to Felicia if you do have more questions or need some advice. And also reach out to us here at EarthEcho International. We're happy to put you in touch with anyone that we feature, but also happy to share experiences as well. So again, Felicia, thank you so much for providing this information for everyone out there. And thank you everyone to the STEMExplore partner sites, especially those who have tuned in live today. Thank you to our viewing sites in New York, Ohio, and Florida. Great questions, everyone. I really hope that this was inspirational. I know it was. And EarthEcho has some exciting opportunities that are coming up. In fact, we are going to explore EarthEcho Expeditions What's the Catch starting next month. So EarthEcho will release a brand new suite of classroom materials exploring fisheries and sustainability. All these materials that we will provide and launch next month are free for teachers and educators to download. You can just visit our website, earthecho.org, to find out more about that, as well as our other expeditions programs. But in particular, join us and the University of Plymouth for a free virtual field trip celebrating the release of EarthEcho Expeditions What's the Catch on January 7th. So tune in for that. Again, you can go to our website to find more details. And did you know that you can become a citizen scientist with EarthEcho's Water Challenge program? The EarthEcho Water Challenge program builds awareness and involvement in protecting water resources around the world by engaging citizens just like you to conduct basic monitoring of their local water bodies. So again, visit our website to learn more and to join the EarthEcho Water Challenge. And lastly, we are so excited to announce that STEMExplore will continue to offer virtual career connections with female professionals in STEM careers. Look to our website and sign up for our newsletter so that you can receive the latest updates. And we will continue our STEMExplore programming to feature these fantastic women in STEM careers in early 2020. So stay tuned for that. Of course, also be sure to stay connected with EarthEcho, not only on that website that we've mentioned, but through all of our social media channels using that handle @EarthEcho. And again, thank you again to our wonderful STEMExplore mentor, Felicia Horne, and to United Technology for their tremendous support of women in STEM and of this programming. So on behalf of EarthEcho International, thank you all for joining us today and keep exploring. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.